He married the woman I planned to propose to. While I was still lying in a hospital bed he put me in. People talk about betrayal like it's a knife in the back, but I didn't feel the blade. I heard the wedding bells. I saw their vows on my phone screen while I couldn't even move my hands to throw it across the room. That's when it hit me. Austin didn't just wreck my car that night. He wrecked my life. Before the accident, Ellie used to trace her fingers down my spine and say I carried the world on it. She'd call me her anchor, her safe place. And I believed her. God, I believed her. Even when she started canceling plans, even when Austin offered to drive me home instead of her that night. I remember the headlights, the screech, his panicked voice shouting my name after the impact. Then, darkness. When I woke up, the world was smaller, quieter, wheels under me instead of legs. And Ellie was gone. I asked the nurse where she was. No one knew. I asked my brother to check her social media. That's when he showed me. Ellie in a white dress, Austin in a tux, her smile wide, his hand on her waist, and my chest caved in harder than it had during the crash. 3 months later, they showed up. Together. She had the nerve to look guilty. He had the audacity to stand behind her like some hero holding her purse. "Justin," she said, her voice too soft for someone who vanished while I was learning to swallow again. I stared at the two of them. "Congratulations," I said. "Hope the honeymoon wasn't too exhausting." Austin tried to speak, but I cut him off with a look. He lowered his eyes like the coward he was. Ellie stepped closer, her eyes watery. "It wasn't supposed to be like this." "No," I said. "You're right. I was supposed to walk you down the aisle, not watch you marry my best friend from a wheelchair. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, but right there I made a promise to myself. I'll stand, again, not just on my feet, but at the gate of everything you built with my name still echoing in your heart. My name is Justin Callahan. I used to believe I had everything a man could ask for. A stable tech career, a tight circle of friends, a family that cared, and a woman I thought would stand by me even if the world fell apart. Her name was Ellie Monroe. Ellie wasn't loud. She didn't need to be. She had the kind of presence that quieted a room without trying. Long, dark hair always tied loosely, eyes that watched more than they spoke, and a voice that never raised but always settled somewhere deep in your chest. We met in college. She was studying architecture and I was buried in algorithms and circuit boards. She liked old buildings and I liked solving problems no one else wanted to touch. On paper, we weren't supposed to make sense. But I saw the way she looked at broken things like they were worth fixing. And I'd always been a little broken. She called me reliable, said I had a calm that made her feel safe. I used to take her to bookstores instead of clubs, late-night burger runs instead of candlelit dinners. She never complained, not once. She said the simplest things with me felt like home. I wanted to propose the night of the accident. The ring had been sitting in my sock drawer for 2 weeks. I had planned it all. Nothing fancy, just a quiet beach walk followed by a question I already knew the answer to. But that day, Ellie was distracted, said she had a headache, didn't want to drive. Austin offered instead. Austin, my best friend, since high school. We'd played on the same basketball team, shared the same taste in music, and, apparently, the same taste in women. He was the charming one, the effortless talker, the guy who always laughed too loudly at his own jokes. I used to think his ego was harmless. I never realized it was ambition dressed in sheep's clothing. He drove me that night, said he didn't feel like drinking, and would drop me home before hitting the bar with some colleagues. I remember the sharp turn he didn't brake for. The headlights, the sound of glass shattering, the moment I realized we were spinning, and then nothing. When I woke up in the hospital a week later, Ellie wasn't there. Neither was Austin. The doctors said I was lucky. My spine was injured but not severed. With time, therapy, and luck, I might walk again. But it was going to take months, maybe years. The first month passed with just nurses and machines for company. The second month, my brother flew in to help me adjust. He was the one who broke the news. Justin. Ellie married Austin. Last week. I stared at him for a full minute, waiting for the punchline. He held out his phone instead. There it was. The photo. Ellie in a white dress I'd never seen before, the one I should have unzipped on our wedding night. Austin standing beside, her with that same cocky half smile I'd seen 1,000 times before. They looked happy. I didn't even realize I was holding my breath until the tears came. Not loud, not dramatic, just silent rivers running down both cheeks. Everything slowed. After that, I stopped asking about them, stopped hoping. Until one afternoon, the door to my hospital room opened, and there she was. Ellie. Still stunning, still soft-spoken, wearing a simple dress and holding a box of peaches. As if it was just another weekend and she'd come to visit. Her boyfriend who caught the flu. I brought these for you, she said, holding out the box like a peace offering. Behind her, awkward and too tall for the doorway, stood Austin. His hands were stuffed in his pockets, his expression unreadable. I didn't say anything. Just stared. Ellie looked thinner than before. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Maybe she wasn't sleeping. Maybe guilt does that to people. How are you feeling? She asked. How's the honeymoon? I replied. Her lips parted slightly. Austin looked away. She placed the box on the table. We didn't go. I nodded slowly. Too busy building a life on broken bones? She winced. Justin, please, why are you here? She hesitated. I wanted to see you. You mean you wanted to see if the guy you left for dead was still breathing? Don't say that, she whispered. It's not fair. I almost laughed. No, you're right. What's fair is stealing your best friend's future while he learns to use a bedpan. Austin stepped forward. Look, man, you didn't mean to fall in love with her? I asked. Or you didn't mean to crash the car that left me in this chair? He didn't answer. Of course not. Cowards don't. Ellie blinked back tears. Justin? It wasn't like that. Then tell me what it was like, I said. Help me understand how the woman who once said, I was her entire world, forgot I existed the moment my legs stopped working. She looked down, said nothing, and in that silence, everything changed, because the man I used to be, the one who believed love was enough, he died in that crash. What rose from the wreckage wasn't the same. He had steel in his spine, whether it worked or not. I waited for them to leave, and then I picked up the therapy schedule beside my bed. Whatever it took, I would stand again. Not to win her back, but to make sure they knew. You can't bury someone alive and expect him not to dig his way out. The conflict didn't begin with Ellie and Austin standing side by side in my hospital room. It didn't start with her silence or his lowered eyes. No, the real conflict began when I realized that love alone had never been enough to hold them back. After they left that day, the air around me felt thicker. Every tick of the clock echoed louder than it should have. I stared at the box of peaches she left on the table. Perfectly arranged, not one bruised. That was Ellie. Everything tidy on the surface, chaos just beneath. I didn't touch the fruit. I couldn't. They felt like pity disguised as sweetness. Over the next few days, something strange started happening. I'd catch nurses whispering in the hallway. One of the therapists avoided eye contact. And then a young intern, a girl named Miriam who used to chat freely while helping with my stretches, suddenly turned cold. She adjusted my posture during a session and said flatly, "You should be grateful she came back to see you. Not many would have." I blinked at her. "Excuse me?" "You've been bad-mouthing her," she added, not looking at me. "People talk." "I haven't said a word," I replied. Miriam scoffed. "You didn't have to. The post says enough." That evening, my brother came storming into my room, phone in hand. "You need to see this." There it was. A public post from an anonymous account on a popular forum titled, "Bitter Ex in a Wheelchair Slams Fiancé Who Moved On Too Fast." The post was filled with twisted truths and elegant lies. It claimed I'd threatened Ellie during her hospital visit, that I'd accused Austin of sabotage, that I couldn't accept their love and was now spreading malicious rumors. The comments were brutal. What's worse than a disabled man? A bitter one. Let her go, dude. She's not your nurse. Typical. Wants her now that she's happy with someone else. My hands trembled. Not from the injury, from rage. I looked at my brother. You believe any of this? He shook his head. Of course not, but people will. We both knew what was happening. Ellie and Austin were painting their narrative, one where I was the obsessed ex who couldn't let go. One where my injury turned me into a toxic liability instead of the man they once celebrated. But what hurt most wasn't the lie. It was realizing how convenient it had become for her to erase everything we had. I picked up my phone and stared at her contact. I hadn't deleted it. A part of me still thought maybe she'd reach out first. Explain, apologize, anything. But I wasn't a fool anymore. I called her. She didn't answer. 2 hours later, she texted, I think it's better if we don't communicate directly anymore. It's not healthy for either of us. I truly wish you the best. No signature, no warmth, just a boundary drawn with surgical precision. Healthy? She had once cried against my chest and said she couldn't sleep without hearing my heartbeat. Now she said talking to me was unhealthy. I showed the message to my brother. Do you think she posted the forum thing? He shook his head slowly. Not her. Austin. I clenched my jaw. That made more sense. Austin had always been the image polisher. The guy who knew how to bend a story until the truth suffocated beneath it. And just like that, the man who put me in this chair was now painting himself as a hero, the savior of the woman I loved. Later that night, Bella visited. She didn't knock. She just walked in, her arms full of takeout and her face set in quiet fury. I know it. Wasn't you? She said without greeting. I raised an eyebrow. About what? The post. I know you didn't write it. I gave her a half smile. Glad someone does. She set the food down. Ellie's not behind it either. She doesn't have the guts. Then Austin. Bella nodded. And she's letting him. Because it's easier than admitting she's living in the shadow of someone she betrayed. We sat in silence for a while. Then Bella looked me dead in the eyes. Do you still love her? I paused, thought carefully. I loved who she was with me, I said. But the woman who stood in this room last week? I don't know her anymore. Bella leaned forward. Then stop letting their version of the story be the only one. Out there! I stared at her. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't just some wounded man in a wheelchair. I wasn't a side character in their romance. I had loved. I had lost. But I still had a voice. I grabbed my laptop, opened a blank document. Not to start a smear. Campaign. Not to play victim, but to write the truth. The truth about the accident. The silence. The betrayal. The woman who vanished when the world stopped clapping for us. And the man who stood at the center of it all, claiming the life he stole. Because sometimes the only way to take back your name is to let the world hear your side of the story. At night, I couldn't sleep. Not because of the pain in my legs. That was familiar now, dull and constant. It was the weight in my chest that kept me staring at the ceiling, the kind that no medication could numb. I kept thinking about her voice, the soft way Ellie used to say my name. I'd hear it sometimes in the quiet, even though she hadn't, said it with warmth in months. And it always sounded exactly the same, like it belonged to the version of her I still missed, not the stranger who had walked out of my hospital room without looking back. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the car, the moment before impact. Austin's knuckles white on the wheel, my gut screaming that something wasn't right. Was it really just an accident? I didn't want to believe he did it on purpose. That kind of evil felt too big, even for him. But the more I thought about it, the way he'd offered to drive when Ellie canceled at the last second, the way he disappeared from the hospital for weeks, the way he showed up later as Ellie's husband, It all felt too carefully timed. Was I paranoid? Maybe. But when you've lost everything, suspicion becomes second nature. I hated that I still cared, that a part of me still wanted Ellie to text back, still wanted her to say it was all a mistake, that she was sorry. But instead of messages, I got whispers from nurses, from old friends who didn't know what to say anymore. Some thought I was angry because I'd been replaced, that I was bitter and couldn't move on. Others pitied me, which was worse. Bella was the only one who treated me the same. She never tiptoed around me, never softened her tone like I might shatter. "You're holding back," she said one evening, dragging a chair next to me. "You want to burn the whole thing down, and instead you're writing polite little blog posts." I looked at her. "So what? I should go full war mode?" She shrugged. "I'm just saying, no one's going to fight for your truth but you." I stared at the laptop screen. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but nothing came out. I didn't want revenge. I just wanted my life back. The version where Ellie smiled at me in the morning and kissed my shoulder before falling asleep. The version where Austin was my friend. Where I could still run, still dance, still be the man I recognized in the mirror. But that version of me was gone. And in his place sat a man who had no idea what he was supposed to do now. Therapy felt like climbing a mountain blind. Every step a gamble, every movement a reminder that I wasn't whole. They said I was progressing well, but inside, I was stuck. There were mornings I didn't want to get out of bed, not because I couldn't, but because I didn't see the point. Who was I even getting stronger for? Then David called. David, my godson, Ellie's nephew, 8 years old, full of questions and zero filter. "Uncle Justin," he said over video, grinning. "Mom said you're like a robot now." I laughed. First real one in days. "A robot, huh?" "Yeah, she said you've got metal in your back and wheels instead of feet." "She's not wrong," I said, smiling. He looked serious. "That means you're like Iron Man, right?" I didn't answer right away. "Uncle?" "Yeah," I finally said, throat tight. "That's exactly what I am." When the call ended, I stared at the black screen. His little face still burned into my memory, and something shifted. I didn't want him to grow up thinking people in wheelchairs were tragic. That men like me were just broken statues sitting still while the world moved on. I wanted him to remember that I stood back up, that I fought. Not for Ellie, not against Austin, but for myself. Because even if my heart was a battlefield and my past was filled with landmines, I still had breath in my lungs. I still had time. The next morning, I told my therapist I wanted to try standing again. No walker, no bars, just me. She hesitated. "It's too soon." "I'll fall," I said. "I know, but I'll fall forward." She gave me a look. Not pity, not doubt. Just quiet support. And when I did stand, legs trembling, hands clenched tight around the handles of the frame, I felt everything at once. Fear, fury, pain, but also hope. Because even if the ground shook beneath me, I was upright again, 1 inch taller than the man Austin left behind. And that inch? It was everything. I stood for 12 seconds. 12 seconds of shaking knees, clenched jaws, sweat pouring down my back, and a pride I hadn't felt in months. But when I collapsed into the wheelchair again, gasping and lightheaded, I wasn't thinking about pain. I was thinking about momentum. I had some now. That night, I opened my inbox to find a message from a name I hadn't seen in over a year. Eric Zhao, old college friend. Also an orthopedic surgeon. We hadn't spoken since the accident. Subject line, "We need to talk. It's about Austin." I opened the message, expecting something vague or useless. But the first line stopped me cold. "I know what really happened the night of your accident." Eric explained everything in a few short, brutal paragraphs. That Austin had come to him for a favor months ago. That he was panicking over something he accidentally recorded in the car's dash cam footage. That he needed help wiping metadata, getting rid of GPS tags, burying timestamps. Eric refused. Said he couldn't do it ethically. Austin ghosted him after that. Eric didn't push, but now, after reading the online attacks against me, he couldn't stay silent. Attached to the message was the raw video file. I sat frozen in front of the laptop. Then I hit play. The screen showed the inside of the car that night. My face relaxed, Austin's stiff, the music low. Then, his voice. Cold. She's gonna leave him. She said it this morning. If she sees him like this, she won't be able to stay. Then the wheel jerks, a flash of headlights. Impact. I didn't remember him saying those words. Maybe I'd tuned them out. Too focused on Ellie's silence, too tired from the late shift, too trusting to see it coming. But there it was. Proof. He didn't swerve too late. He swerved on purpose, not to kill me. No, just enough to maim me, to make me less than. So Ellie could walk away without guilt. So he could step in, play savior, and rewrite the script. He calculated it. I felt bile rise in my throat. I pressed pause and stared at the screen. At my own face. My past self. The version of me that still believed in best friends and lifelong love. Then I downloaded the video. Backed it up. Sent copies to 3 different drives. Bella arrived 20 minutes later. I didn't say a word. Just played it. She didn't blink, didn't flinch. When the clip ended, she turned to me, voice flat. We leak it. No, I said. Not yet. Why the hell not? Because right now I want to see how far he's willing to go to keep pretending. I want him to choke on the image he built. Bella leaned back in her chair. You want to corner him? I nodded. Exactly. Because there's something worse than being caught. It's being seen when you think no one's watching. Let him smile. Let him keep holding Ellie's hand in public, pretending he earned it. Because when I stand at his gate, with the truth in my hands, I won't need to say a word. The sky was silver the day I arrived at the gates of Austin's estate. Not blue. Not gray. Silver, like a blade catching light before it cuts. A year had passed since the accident. 11 months since the wedding. 7 months since I first stood again, and 1 day since I told Ellie to meet me there. Alone. I waited in silence. No wheelchair. No cane. Just my body, reclaimed inch by inch with every bruise, every fall, every sleepless night. When she arrived, she didn't recognize me at first. She stepped out of her car in soft heels, sunglasses on, hair loose. The moment her eyes met mine, she stopped walking. Her lips parted, barely breathing. Justin? I nodded. Afraid so. You're standing. I am. She looked stunned, staggered, like someone had hit pause on her world. I could see it in her face. The Ellie I remembered. The one who used to pull me into dance even when there was no music. She was still in there. But dulled. Smaller. Why did you ask me to come? She finally whispered. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a flash drive. Tossed it lightly. She caught it. What's this? Proof. Of what? Of what really happened the night I lost the use of my legs. She stared down at the drive, her expression unreadable. You said you didn't remember the crash, I continued, but you must have wondered. Why Austin panicked so much? Why he didn't let you ride in the ambulance with me? Why he didn't answer your calls for 3 days? She said nothing. I took a step closer. You married him 6 weeks later. No one questioned it, because I was still in a hospital bed, too broken to speak for myself. Her hands trembled slightly. Justin, I didn't know. No, I interrupted, voice sharp. You didn't ask, she flinched. The silence stretched between us. Then she looked up. What's on the video? You'll see. When you watch it. It's his voice. Before he crashed the car, she looked like she was holding her breath. What did he say? I tilted my head. Something about you. About how if you saw me like that, broken, you wouldn't be able to stay. Her hand flew to her mouth. She turned away, almost stumbling. I didn't move. I let her have that moment. because everything in me wanted to comfort her, to tell her it was okay, that I still remembered how she used to fall asleep with her fingers twisted in mine, that there were nights I still dreamed of her laugh. But the version of her in those memories wasn't real anymore. After a long minute, she turned back. "Did you show this to anyone else?" "Not yet." "And what do you want, Justin?" The question landed like a stone. "I don't want revenge," I said softly. "I don't want to humiliate him, or you. I don't need the world to know." She blinked, confused. "I wanted you to know," I said, "to see the truth, to stop pretending this was just how things worked out." Her lips trembled. "He said it was just a mistake, that he swerved too late." He didn't. Tears welled in her eyes. "I believed him." "I know. I married him." I nodded. "And now you know what that marriage is built on." She held the flash drive like it was burning her fingers. I could have walked away then, let the weight of truth do the damage. But I wasn't done. "Why didn't you come see me?" I asked. She looked at me, eyes wide. "Right after the crash." "When?" "I woke up and asked for you. When I waited and waited. Why didn't you come?" She struggled to speak. "I couldn't. I didn't know how to face you. Austin said you were angry, that you didn't want to see anyone, that you blamed me." I stared at her. "That was all it took?" I asked. "A few words from him, and you gave up on me?" She broke. Her voice cracked. "No, I didn't give up. I didn't know what to believe anymore." "And so you chose the easier story." She sank onto the stone bench by the gate, covering her face with her hands. I hated myself for it every day, but I kept telling myself you wouldn't want me back anyway, that maybe you were better off starting over. I exhaled. The ache in my chest didn't dull, but at least now it had a shape. "I didn't come here to reopen wounds," I said. "I came here to close mine." She looked up, her face tear-streaked. "Do you hate me?" I paused. "No," I said, "but I don't love you either, not anymore." Her breath hitched. "I loved who you were with me, but that person's gone. Just like the man I used to be." She stood slowly. "What happens now?" "That depends on you." "I can leave him," she said quietly. "I will." "I'm not asking you to," I replied. "I'm not here to rescue you from your choices." She nodded slowly, understanding. "I'll watch the video," she whispered. "And I'll deal with him." I nodded once. As I turned to walk away, she called after me. "Justin." I paused. "I'm sorry," she said. I looked back over my shoulder. "For what?" "For not believing in you." I gave her a sad smile. "I stopped needing you too, a long time ago. And then I walked away. Not limping, not wheeling. Walking. Toward a life that had room for pain, yes, but also for peace, because the past was behind me, and everything I'd become was just beginning." 3 weeks after that day at the gates, Austin's world began to crack. It started quietly. An anonymous video upload titled, "The Cost of a Throne Built on Wheels." It wasn't from me. I hadn't planned to release it publicly, but someone else had. Bella. She never told me, never warned me. She just walked into my rehab session one afternoon, handed me a smoothie, and said calmly, "It's done." At first I thought she meant the blog post, or her own, unfinished business with Ellie. But then I opened my phone and saw it. The clip was under 2 minutes long. Austin's voice. That sharp moment before the crash. His admission, his intent. The silence before the wheel turned. It went viral in under 12 hours. People remembered me. The paralyzed fiancé. The bitter ex who'd supposedly tried to ruin their love story. The internet loves villains until it realizes it's been cheering for the wrong one. By the end of the first day, Austin's company had suspended him. By the second, he was trending globally for all the wrong reasons. Headlines called him everything from a calculating sociopath to the real-life antagonist of a romance gone wrong. The backlash was swift. Investors backed out. Sponsorships collapsed. He was photographed getting into a car, alone, eyes hollow, face pale. He had tried to build a life using my silence as the foundation. And now, that silence had shattered. Ellie? She moved out the night she saw the video, left the mansion, and filed for divorce the next morning. Didn't even take the furniture. She didn't contact me. I didn't expect her to, but Bella did. She showed up with a smirk and 2 bags of takeout. Was it too much? She asked. I looked at her. You leaked it. She didn't deny it. We're going to let them walk away with everything, Justin. Closure's good. But truth burns clean. I didn't argue. We ate on the balcony. My legs rested on a cushion. The evening breeze was soft. The sky blushed pink as the sun dipped low. Her lips trembled. He said it was just a mistake, that he swerved too late. He didn't. Tears welled in her eyes. I believed him. I know. I married him. I nodded. And now you know what that marriage is built on. She held the flash drive like it was burning her fingers. I could have walked away then, let the weight of truth do the damage. But I wasn't done. Why didn't you come see me? I asked. She looked at me, eyes wide. Right after the crash. When? I woke up and asked for you. When I waited and waited. Why didn't you come? She struggled to speak. I couldn't. I didn't know how to face you. Austin said you were angry, that you didn't want to see anyone, that you blamed me. I stared at her. That was all it took? I asked. A few words from him, and you gave up on me? She broke. Her voice cracked. No, I didn't give up. I didn't know what to believe anymore. And so you chose the easier story. She sank onto the stone bench by the gate, covering her face with her hands. I hated myself for it every day, but I kept telling myself you wouldn't want me back anyway, that maybe you were better off starting over. I exhaled. The ache in my chest didn't dull, but at least now it had a shape. I didn't come here to reopen wounds, I said. I came here to close mine. She looked up, her face tear-streaked. Do you hate me? I paused. No, I said. But I don't love you either. Not anymore. Her breath hitched. I loved who you were with me. But that person's gone. Just like the man I used to be. She stood slowly. What happens now? That depends on you. I can leave him, she said quietly. I will. I'm not asking you to, I replied. I'm not here to rescue you from your choices. She nodded slowly, understanding. I'll watch the video, she whispered. And I'll deal with him. I nodded once. As I turned to walk away, she called after me. Justin. I paused. I'm sorry, she said. I looked back over my shoulder. For what? For not believing in you. I gave her a sad smile. I stopped needing you too, a long time ago. And then I walked away. Not limping, not wheeling. Walking. Toward a life that had room for pain, yes, but also for peace, because the past was behind me, and everything I'd become was just beginning. 3 weeks after that day at the gates, Austin's world began to crack. It started quietly. An anonymous video upload titled, "The Cost of a Throne Built on Wheels." It wasn't from me. I hadn't planned to release it publicly. But someone else had. Bella. She never told me. Never warned me. She just walked into my rehab session one afternoon, handed me a smoothie, and said calmly, "It's done." At first I thought she meant the blog post, or her own, unfinished business with Ellie. But then I opened my phone and saw it. The clip was under 2 minutes long. Austin's voice. That sharp moment before the crash. His admission, his intent. The silence before the wheel turned. It went viral in under 12 hours. People remembered me. The paralyzed fiancé, the bitter ex who'd supposedly tried to ruin their love story. The internet loves villains until it realizes it's been cheering for the wrong one. By the end of the first day, Austin's company had suspended him. By the second, he was trending globally for all the wrong reasons. Headlines called him everything from a calculating sociopath to the real-life antagonist of a romance gone wrong. The backlash was swift. Investors backed out. Sponsorships collapsed. He was photographed getting into a car, alone, eyes hollow, face pale. He had tried to build a life using my silence as the foundation. And now, that silence had shattered. Ellie? She moved out the night she saw the video, left the mansion, and filed for divorce the next morning. Didn't even take the furniture. She didn't contact me. I didn't expect her to, but Bella did. She showed up with a smirk and 2 bags of takeout. Was it too much? She asked. I looked at her. You leaked it. She didn't deny it. We're going to let them walk away with everything, Justin. Closure's good. But truth burns clean. I didn't argue. We ate on the balcony. My legs rested on a cushion. The evening breeze was soft. The sky blushed pink as the sun dipped low.